Hello, human designers. This is 12 Blue Lines. I'm Isis Silver, and this week's polarity is between Insight, Gate 43, and Clarity, Gate 23. And you can see they have a special relationship to each other because they make a channel. So not only are they polar opposites in their yin yang nature, as we can see here, but they are also harmonic in making a life force. And perhaps it's a rather troublesome life force because this is the freak genius line, although it could be called other things like structuring. But it's the mind, the unique mind expressing to a unique expression, making something that has never been structured before. And we do owe this existence of human design probably to the fact that Ra Uru-Hu's nodes, his design nodes, were in 4323, line 3, experiencing, materializing, unconscious, freaky third line stuff. Today, I did something to help me understand these lines better, which I've never done before. I asked DeepSeek to give me some input, DeepSeek being the Chinese LLM, large language model, artificially clever, not artificially intelligent. And I asked it to help me with these the traditional names for these two gates compared to the modern names that Ra provided us. And I found that to be somewhat illuminating. And it also helped me see how seven-centered and mental and there is really a different tone to that seven-centered I Ching. The Rave I Ching being the first nine-centered I Ching for the modern human. And remember the difference between the seven and nine-centered human that is most important to me, I think, and to all of humanity to potentially understand, that the mind is not here to lead us anymore. We don't need the mind to survive. Survival is not the issue for the nine-centered being. So before I share the keynotes from the Blue I Ching, the logical, supportive nine-centered I Ching, let's just start with this word breakthrough. The traditional I Ching called it breakthrough. And my understanding from DeepSeek, if it's accurate, is that you see these yang lines, like this is really indicating that it's time for action, time for action. Now, in human design, we would never say that action should come from an insight because the insight's up there in the concept center or the mind. And the mind is just mind. The mind is not energized for action, at least within the same human. Somebody else's insight might give you a basis for action from your own body, but an insight alone is not something that should dictate what someone's own energy is devoted to. Now, the contrast here in this beautiful keynote of clarity, but splitting apart. Splitting apart was the traditional I Ching name here. And I asked, how could it be called splitting apart when the modern name is assimilation? And what I learned from DeepSeek, accurate or not, I can't tell yet, is that you see all these yin lines, that there's a breaking down occurring in that yinness. There's only one thing holding it together, one yang line, like a mountain on top of an unstable land where everything is eroding and coming apart. And in fact, maybe the word for the splitting apart in Chinese has to do with peeling or taking things apart. DeepSeek gave something that might have come from some other I Ching studies, but it said that here it's about things being broken down so that they can be used in a new way. And that's where we get the gate of assimilation. Break down all the pieces, like a tree will break down in the forest, and then other things, other life forms will use those same minerals. So I can see some of those keynotes here in fragmentation and synthesis. So with that seven-centered ancient background, let me go into insight and clarity line by line in the logical language that I can follow easily. The foundation, the security of insight comes from patience. The patience to provide depth and to form an insight. This is unique thinking, and it takes a long time. The shadow here is someone who has an insight but doesn't have the depth to establish it. But with time, with patience, that insight can be foundational. The yin line, proselytization in order to establish new values. Things are coming apart. Let me tell you how to put them back together again. Here's how they should be done now. The naturalness of insight, dedication, unique insights through mental processes. Yeah, we know it's processes and it's mental. And what this line is saying is that habits, mental habits, can promote the breakthrough. But yeah, on the other side, the second line can be lazy about things. Self-defense is the keynote for the naturalness of clarity, the defense of individual clarity. On the shadow side here, the tolerance of other people's insights, perhaps, is abandoned when the individual expression is in danger. Second line does not want to be told that they are not clear. What happens at the third line? Expediency. Certainty endures reproach. This meets up with my very own Gate 23, line 3, unconscious to me. I'm learning about it through talking to you. So, if you have insights in a third line, you're going to bump into other people's stuff. And, eventually, maybe you can develop a kind of certainty that endures the reproach of other people who don't buy into your yang expressions of insights. And on the yin side, individuality, individual expression that can be stimulating. Stimulating to who? I guess to other people. So here it is. Here's my design, Jupiter, my body's protection and expansion. And the Pluto side is the dark side, the freak who cannot clearly express their insights and causes suspicions as they can become a threat. The Rave I Ching version is even worse. And I am probably doing all of this I Ching study to overcome this. That can I express myself clearly so other people don't think I'm a freak? Because it is really hard being an individual, going about your own very individual deconditioning, and to have people, including your own, close people, find you threatening for things that you didn't even know that you said. But on the bright side, the sun, the individual and clear expression that attracts attention but is not detrimental to others. Upper trigram, stubbornness, the stubborn reliance on one's individual insights. This fourth line, I'm really sensitive to it, right? And it's got a know-it-all vanity to it on the shadow side, and it has a focus on formulating insights correctly on the bright side. Yeah, that's mental stubbornness. By the way, this is one of the gates of deafness. These 43s don't want to hear what other people have to say. They have their own ideas. They have their own inner ear, right? This is the inner ear. Clarity, on the other hand, is not listening. It is expressing. And in me, it's expressing from the root through the splenic center. And fragmentation is the fourth line. Individuality whose value is not always recognized. That's what these people get to learn. On the dark side, there can be a paranoid expression of confusion. And on the bright side, it's an individual expression which remains incoherent at best. So yeah, fourth line fragmentation. Not an easy line to carry either, but it's part of the human story. Now, delivering to the collective through the fifth line, relatedness, the gift of sharing one's insights with others. How different than the fourth line, which was stubborn reliance on one's individual insights. Here, the potential is a gift for sharing them. Of course, that's related to the people that are around. And on the shadow side is the fifth line, who won't actually put out the insight because she's trying to maintain harmony, trying not to be the heretic. Balanced out and also harmonizing to adaptation. Adaptation. I need to understand these two words. Do they both exist? Or did Ra make up one of them? I think he might have made up the other one. Anyway, adapt expression in order to be heard. Nope, that's not good English there either, but that's okay. The Blue I Ching got translated. So here, the fifth line can express individual insights in a comprehensible way because they're built on existing values. How does that? Seems like there's nothing underneath it here, but I guess existing values can support the fifth line here, the individual clarity. And there's a dark side brought out by the moon, where one is trying to get the acceptance of the collective. Oops. And up on the roof, the only yin line of the gate of insight. Here's the breakthrough, the original I Ching keynote here. The breakthrough, as knowledge is collectively of value. Because, the individual knowing isn't particularly useful to most other people. And it's quite rare when the individual knowing gets into the collective in a way that provides value. But that is the potential here. Polarized and balanced by synthesis, individual knowledge that develops syntheses. Bring those fragmented pieces back together, expressing a multitude of forms. All of those little molecules of the tree that has died are on their way into another tree, coming back together into something that is a form. But of course, there's a shadow to it that is fragmented and incoherent expression. Could be nice to avoid fragmented and incoherent expression, but it's just one of the flavors of humanity, we could say. So I've come back to this just to remind us of where this channel is and what it's doing. And you'll see in the description or the whatever below that the other channels where the polarities make harmonic life forces. And I recognize in doing this that what I've done is very gate 23. And that 43, pretty significant in my life. But somehow I have a different feeling about it all now, having read the older older keynotes in context with the lines. So let me know. Let me know if that was helpful to hear that, or whether it was inaccurate because I failed to follow up on DeepSeek. Artificial cleverness, is it helping us? I'd love to talk about that too, and that is a big part of why I made Stay Human. So would you like to talk about it? In any case, until next week, take care of yourself.